Hi, my name's Tony Chapman. I'm the host of Chatter That Matters. In this age of noise, I cut through the chaos and confusion to focus on what matters most to your life and your livelihood. And on this episode, I chat with... I've got a very special guest today, someone that believes that innovation is the heartbeat of the Canadian economy. His career is stellar, from Deloitte managing global taxation, OMERS in terms of investing in the tech, and today is the Vice Chair of the Canadian Innovation Council. Welcome to the video, John Ruffolo.
Thank you, Tony.
And some of your interviews, you worry about, are we just going to slip back and be a resource economy? Is this the time, finally, that Canada could stand up and say, you know what, we want to be defined by our new economy, not necessarily the old economy?
Absolutely. I'm still not sure whether COVID is actually fundamentally changing any direction that we were heading into, but what it is absolutely doing is two fundamental things. It is exposing the vulnerabilities in our economy and how we interact with one another, number one. And number two, innovation that was already taking a certain direction, but wasn't quite getting the right level of acceleration or the right level of product market fit. All of a sudden, in a massively rapid fashion, those trends that were already moving have been accelerated at speeds that I haven't really seen really in my lifetime.
I'm going to play devil's advocate. People that have had status quo and feel they're entitled to a certain way of doing things, are they going to surrender now to what should be a free market, and where consumers are saying and customers are saying, that's now the way we want to do business? Will that happen? Or do you think we're just going to completely reverse and go back to the old days that said, what I had was good and I don't want to change?
That's a great question. So I think that we as humans are social creatures, and we have comfort in doing things that we are used to doing. Where I see things happening is you're going to see increased flexibility. But in the words of Satya Nadella at Microsoft, he said the best thing: don't exchange one dogma for another dogma. The answer is it's somewhere in the middle, and flexibility is going to be absolutely critical.
I listened to an incredible interview you did, and also did a bit more backstudy on it, talking about healthcare could be one of the great areas for Canada's new economy. But you're saying the same inertia exists there in terms of an appetite to change.
Absolutely. So that's another frustrating one. So I spent a lot of time, again, more so on the Ontario side, really trying to encourage the Ontario health officials to really adopt virtual care, virtual diagnosis, etc. What was the underlying reason? We cannot, on our current paradigm, continue to afford our great healthcare system that we pretty much take advantage. So the digital delivery of these services was absolutely fundamental. COVID hits, boom, right? We are now delivering virtual care right now, and now all of a sudden, not only the people in high densification areas like Toronto get good care, but folks who are in remote communities can get the same level of care. And you can actually then triage the really serious stuff, and then use the hospitals for things that you could only do with very, very sophisticated equipment. It's those few areas that I think in particular are going to be fundamentally changed.
So I want to shift to the Canadian economy going forward, and specifically small business. Tell me a little bit about our new economy and the role small business can play, knowing that technology in many cases can level the playing field.
Sure. I was assisting the federal government in all of the subsidies for the small business, and really reacted very, very quickly to encourage the government with the wage subsidy, rent relief, etc. And why was that, as opposed to a lot of larger companies? This is the heart of the Canadian economy, and part of the challenge is if our small businesses suffer, it really creates a cascading effect, and you start to see a massive collapse of demand for services, and it really starts with our small business communities. So they are, in my view, the most critical ultimately to the Canadian economy, but they're also the most vulnerable. The second part of this, and it's part of a ongoing trend of the gig economy. Canada's economy, US and most Western states have been shifting from an employment-based economy to a self-employed contractor economy. And I think that is going to continue. And the whole notion of how we grew up believing you're going to be employed is going to go away. And we're going to end up being a nation of contractors. So really at the heart of it, you think that small businesses is critical now to our economy. I think it's going to be even more so critical.
What do we need to do as a country, as these people, sometimes not by choice, find themselves becoming entrepreneurs, small business owners? What can we do with technology to help them get where they need to go?
One of the biggest concerns that I had as a double-edged sword or downside of technology is that for every innovation that you see that we enjoy, there has been a continuing shift for the replacement of human labor with machine labor. And this shift of machine labor has happened many times. What we haven't seen is a shift that happens extremely quickly. And when we go through COVID has actually been an accelerant, seeing this shift away from human labor to machine labor. And again, this has happened over the last 150 years, but there has been slow shifts so that it has enabled a workforce to retrain themselves. The problem that we will see ourselves in here is for many of these folks that might need to shift from being an employee to an entrepreneur, they need to be retrained. And as well, that temporary dislocation might require compensation to them, very much like we've done with the CERB payment. I do think that technology is going to serve as the principal means to help train or retrain these individuals, to help shift them into this entrepreneurial side. And being technology savvy is going to be one of those fundamental skill sets that pretty much every entrepreneur is going to have some rudimentary skills in.
Where would you say are the big bets? If I'm looking, I'm realizing I'm going to end up in this sort of gig economy contract workforce. What do you think the veins to mind for individuals that they should be thinking about as we look to Canada 2020 going forward?
Sure. And you're seeing it happen right now. And we'll use COVID as an example. What has it exposed? It's exposed vulnerabilities in our food supply chain, our critical supply chain for manufacturing. It's exposed holes in our delivery of education, healthcare. Those are just 4 areas where entrepreneurs, and I know a number of them who actually pivoted their business that were kind of in adjacencies just to those 4 areas, and then re-pivoted in, and all of a sudden, boom, their businesses started taking off.
Talking to John Ruffolo, and we could someone I could talk to all day, and I mean that with so much sincerity because he has so much to offer. But what I learned more than anything else is the last points he's talking about is really identifying unmet needs and opportunity. The world's changing. Status quo, as Joe Jackman said, is a serial killer of business. When you see things are changing, you're seeing consumers having a new appetite. There's a new quest they're on. They're trying to reinvent themselves. All of that is entrepreneurial opportunity. That's feeding ground. Don, I really appreciate you joining Chatter That Matters, and I'll tap into you again because you've got so much incredible insight to offer so many Canadians that have an appetite for it. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much, Tony. Appreciate it.
Thanks.
All right. Bye-bye.